Okay, good morning, Noel, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new show of Spark Disruption the Easy Way. Today we have Noel from Singapore. He's the regional lead for F&B and hotel for Klook. And I will just pass the word to him for a quick introduction, and then we'll roll it.
Thanks so much, Francesco, and I'm really happy to be here. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's my first time doing this, so I hope I don't screw it up as much as well. I'm Noel, and I'm based in Singapore. Prior to joining Klook, I was actually from the Air Force. So right after university, I served the military service for 6 years. I was with the Air Force. And thereafter, when I left in 2018, I joined a very small startup, F&B, and they're based in Malaysia, called Umai. It's running the head of sales there. And thereafter, last year, I managed to join Klook, and I'm now running both the F&B as well as the hotel and business unit. I also consider myself as a filmmaker, and also a theater actor. I think many years ago, I used to indulge myself in acting, and once considered a career in acting before. But look where I am, yeah, in a tech space, yeah.
That's an interesting career you wanted to have, but not an easy one, I guess. So
yeah, not an easy one.
From acting to tech space, how did that happen? If you quickly, can give us an idea.
I think that it's, if I were to go back to my core fundamentals, it's really about communicating and sharing ideas with people. It's always about storytelling. In my line of work, I deal a lot of the different business partners, carry them through the Klook business story, and also our journey here, and how they could potentially kind of like gain some bookings as well as revenues, and improve their business cycle through using our solution. So I do see certain synergy, except that of course I'm not performing to 500 people or 200 people. Most of the time my audience is just my teammates or my my business reporting leaders, or as well as my merchants. There's some synergy, but at the same time, I think going into actor career, not so much. I think I'm a little shy now. Like I can't take criticism from audience too much. So I think I'm happy where I am.
Oh, no worry, I don't think that you are that shy since you're here also.
Yeah, who knows how many people are watching right now. Yeah,
that's true. So just for the people that are listening, some might not know who is Klook. So maybe you want to give a brief info for them to learn about your company.
Yeah, so Klook, or some people call it Klook, we are actually a lifestyle app. People and consumers come into our app to discover attractions, tours and activities, F&B, as well as staycation experiences. And we are functioning in actually 33 offices. Globally, we have close to 2,000 staff. And I think the main purpose of our role and our mission is really to connect and curate the best experiences. And also, I think to provide some seamless experiences. I think these days, a lot of people wouldn't carry cash. And I think in some of the remote areas, how do we bridge that gap and help businesses, right, actually reach out to new business potential? And I think I do find a lot of meaning and purpose, especially in this current times, right? Using digital solutions and marketing solutions. How do we help businesses right now to do it in a non-traditional manner, and also to give them some business insights using our data that we are able to provide.
Fantastic. Thanks for the brief introduction. And I think, I mean, you, as we were saying earlier, you are the regional lead for food and beverage and hotel, right? Which is a very tough spot to be, I believe, this year. And with the COVID situation, I guess things have not been easy. So do you have any, what was the hardest challenge for you this year, for you, your team, I mean, at the company, I guess, if you want to say.
Yeah, for sure. I always call it it's my war story. I mean, I came from military background, so I always use a lot of synergy to what I've learned over the past 6 years as a military man. And I think COVID has been one of the biggest battle. I think not just I guess for Klook, of course, internally, I think how we function was a lot of we try to bring international travelers into the domestic markets, and then to promote the various businesses, right, like attractions, F&B to the tourists. But now, of course, with all the lockdowns happening, I think the first question was, yeah, how is Klook going to survive? Because our bread and butter was on international travel. So business was very much impacted, I think, when things were taking down south, like March, April. And I think that was when our whole business unit came together. We started pockets of various task force. I think strategically, I think that there needed to be internal controls first. First, we see how we can further cut costs. And that means a lot of like business travels, for example. I used to travel to Malaysia. I was sharing with Francesco. I consider myself half Malaysian because I was in Malaysia like half the time. So business travels and unnecessary business travels and business spendings were reduced. We try to find some cost cutting measures across all the different countries as well as business vertical. And at the same time, I think the most important part was how do we then attack and bring in and win the domestic market? Because right now I need Malaysians to now, hey, look at Klook and say that I also have business offerings. So going into taking that deeper look, it's not as if we never look at domestic market, but it was never kind of our core. But now it becomes the primary core, and it will be a primary core for most of the markets, for example, like Malaysia, Philippines, and even Thailand for a long time to come. And actually, it applies to many businesses as well. So by understanding and say that, yes, I need to attack the domestic market, but it's about finding that right product as well, right? Like what are domestic travelers looking out for? Like what are the domestic consumption? Clearly they will not be looking out for touristy items, right? I mean, if I go to Malaysia right now, if I'm a local, I want to know where are the best local eats, right? I wouldn't be going to a touristy place. So it's about really going a step back, just formulating some of our game plan. And it's pretty much business as usual as well, because that's what I think about, right, day in, day out. What would attract my international travelers or even domestic travelers? What are they excited about? Curating that experience, and then we bring it back to our marketing. And I think Klook as a marketing, they have to take a different shift as well. I think we started Klook Live, Klook home-based experience. All these were born during COVID situations as well, and because we realized that those were the trends. A lot of people were staying at home. People were actually serving online more rather than going out, because we just can't go out anymore. And how do we then find the entertainment value? How do we then interact and also engage our audience? And not so much about like throwing the business to them and making sure that people keep buying stuff, but it's, I think for our businesses like F&B as well as hotelers, it's about making them staying relevant, giving them a platform through Klook and say that, hey, I'm still around, and you know, especially through Klook Live, and just showing them that, hey, you know, after recovery, when things get better, these are the facilities, these are the F&B offerings that are readily available. You can book right now, or you can stay tuned and come and enjoy when things get better.
Okay, interesting. So meaning from international perspective, in terms of your product offering, you guys have relooked things domestically, like I believe like many other business in the industry have done, right?
Yeah.
Because people cannot travel overseas, then they can only travel domestically. And
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, you know, because I come from Sicily, which is a southern part of Italy. And when I was in university, of course, for various reasons, among which I didn't have money because, you know, I was a student, I was traveling within Sicily. And the initial was, oh, I only travel within my region. But then I observed that many people from Italy, especially north of Italy or even other parts of the world, they come to Sicily because we have a lot of beautiful things to see, you know, nature, beaches, and, you know, so food. So I was thinking like, okay, actually it's not a bad thing, you know, to travel domestically, to learn your own region or your own state or your own country first, and then travel, you know, overseas. So I think it is a good rediscovery, you know, for people to, in a way, being forced, but on the other way also discovering your own country, your own place, your own region, you know.
Yeah, I'm very heartened to hear that as well, because I think like if I were to look at just the Singapore and Malaysia markets that I deal with, I think for Singapore, for example, and we are a very small country as compared to Malaysia, and we're like, okay, what is there to do? Everyone is like, we are locked down in our city state, but at the same time, I think that therein lies an opportunity, right? Because traveling has been so easy for most of us, right? Since the beginning of when I was of age, and because of that, were always outward looking, right? So like for myself, I stopped discovering my own gems in Singapore, and that's why I think during this period, it was also a very opportune time for us to work with the various tourism boards to also find activities, curate experiences to get locals to actually spend within the local attractions. So I think in Singapore, we came out with the idea of like building your own Singapore holiday, where we say, hey, you know, we can't go to Australia, we can't go to USA, but what are the different itineraries that you can stack up and in terms of tours, attractions, best food experiences? And for Malaysia, because we have so many different states, more than 10 states to go with, so our marketing actually did, and together with the BD team, is to like identify, hey, you know, where are the various states during the monsoon season? Let's not bring our consumers to Langkawi and Danang. We bring them to the other like Malacca and Penang, for example. And I think because of that, therein we hired local teams, right? So a lot of people were very excited to give local insights. I think traditionally, I think we were always saying that, okay, which are our top attractions that we must have, we've got to bring it in. But right now, I think because all of us are trying to help the small and businesses, and locals actually these days want that local taste, right? They want that gem. I want to know, what is that small mamak shop that you went to? Where is that exciting small back lane barber that you went to get a haircut? And it's a different kind of experience, but because it is so uncommon, it becomes almost like an experience as an adventure. So I think together with our audience, we're also trying to learn more. I think we are always seeding out ideas and to ask them, actually, where are the local gems? What are you guys doing? Where are you guys traveling to? And hopefully with that mix and match and trying to find the ideal sweet spot, we'll be able to serve both our merchants as well as our consumers.
Yeah, I totally agree. In a way, to use a comparison could be like, you know, when even ourselves as a person, you know, with the fact that we are so connected and interconnected with anything and everything around the world, you know, 24/7, we have access to whatever we want with the phone. At the same time, we get disconnected with ourselves, right? We forget the simple things that are surrounding us. Could be our family, our spouse, or our friends, or our whatever, you know. And that is the same concept in a way, but you know, we are focused so much on other things, you know, and the information and communication channel and Facebook and this, and we forget about us. So in the same way, is a similar things that is happening with the travel, right? We are so used to, now I take the flight, go to Hong Kong, I go to Thailand, and now what do I do? Oh, wait a moment, I think we have something here, you know, like, but we never noticed it, right? So it's like a moment where you stop, you know, you stop and start to, I don't know, you become self-aware, not only of yourself, but also your surrounding, you know, so there is so much, but we forget about it, right? We get distracted by the opportunities.
Yeah, and I think it's true, because I think as globalized, I mean, we were so globalized and so interconnected. Actually, there was I have always entertained this thought, right? Like, what if we all just stop one day and then you know, let the trees breathe and all? And of course, I think in the past I used to say it's impossible. I mean, we're so interconnected. There is no way things would stop just for us. And we always say things are progressing so fast. And half the time, my mom is like, hey, I don't see you anymore. You guys are like, my brother and I were always out. But I think this pandemic, I mean, with the lockdown and with all the businesses being affected, I think, like you've mentioned, it has brought us back to our roots, and also to understand what truly matters. What is your core business, right? It's your family and your friends. It's your own backyard in your own country. How then do I actually rediscover this? And by rediscovering, then how then do I slowly start to build up, you know, when things get ready again for international travel? Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so we can say your hardest challenge, or yours, I mean, the company challenge was that the industry has been badly hit by the COVID, of course. And I guess what's your instead personal challenge? I mean, what has been your personal challenge?
I think, I mean, it comes from a few ways. So one, I mean, professionally, I think like I right after being a military man, I have always been a salesperson. So I always love to share and have some sales coaching or like sales learning pitch with my team. And we realized, you know, the traditional way of selling and the traditional way of like building rapport and then go straight to your product, it all has to break down because there is no time for such communication, especially when it's just a Zoom meeting and you know that everything should be confined within about 30 minutes. So it's like going back to your fundamentals and say, okay, how do I then do my sales pitch? Because we don't have like a kind of luxury of time. Everyone is time pressed. Everyone is aware and being very mission critical, right? Like I know what you want. I know what you're trying to sell. Tell me how you can value add. So in that sense, I think professionally, like even organizing my own thoughts and getting my team to say, hey, we got to re-tackle the market, we got to re-engage. But what is this re-engagement, right? It has to come back to the brainstorming with my team and say, okay, then, you know, what should we then be doing? If no one has 1 hour of time or 2 hours of time to hear our pitch, how do we make it exciting? And a whole series of like webinars I mean, we did a whole series of webinars so that we can get more people in at a short period of time. And if they want to ask questions, they can engage and book our time subsequently. And I think personally, it was also the lack of social time. I think with face-to-face with my team, I think for my Malaysia teams particularly, F&B was born only last year, last October, and I hired all of them. And I used to spend so much time, I think at least once a month, to at least check in on the pulse, right? Going into Malaysia, understanding the business, checking in with the merchant, checking in with my team, to really get a sense of the pulse in the market, and then to say, okay, what are the new opportunities and how do we pivot and define, you know, what is the next steps? But right now, I feel like a lot of my senses are gone. I can only rely on this Zoom screen or Google Hangout. And it's very hard sometimes to, and I feel like my senses just need to be even sharper. If someone expresses some form of stress and they don't feel comfortable to tell me over Zoom, I feel like I need that sharper antenna to then say, to sieve it out even more. Because last time, you know, in the past, I can meet you over coffee and within half an hour before you get, you know, you get relaxed with me. But these days, I think with Zoom Hangout and the digital front, the digital engagement, I think it's just retraining and retuning our senses. I don't see, I don't get to touch, I only get to see, I don't get to touch you, I don't get to smell the surrounding. And that was, yeah, I felt like I had to train myself all over again. And of course, finally, I think keeping fit was a challenge. And I pride myself as I do a lot of fitness program to make myself mentally fit and sound. And I think it is also a way to distress. And I know a lot of people did a lot of home workout, but I was like, okay, I'm eating at home, I'm working from home, and right now if I have to exercise from home, and you know, all in one, I just said, I just can't. Like at some point, I just wanted my bedroom and some of my living spaces to be a chill out zone. So yeah, fitness took a toll, and it took a while for me to say, okay, how do I find back my regime again? Yeah,
that's true. It's very true. Like during the MCO here in Malaysia, also was going nuts because I'm also an extroverted person. I need to see people, and like you say, we were doing everything from home, and then after a while I say, you know, I need to distress, and so I say, but I cannot run at home, you know. So I went running the parking lot. But then luckily when things loosen up, then I start running again, and then that helps me to keep myself sane. So I can say that your personal challenge is quite common, and then also this personal challenge of connecting over screen is very hard. I mean, because yes, you can connect, but it's not the same kind of connection. You need a little bit more time sometimes to build that connection with the person, to see, you know, the expression that is hidden somewhere, you know. And yeah, I think now maybe because after 6-7 months, we are getting a little bit more used to the screen, you know, screen time.
I do think that we are, I mean, the fittest survive, right? Like the Darwinian theory. So I think all of us have learned how to adapt, and I'm also very thankful to be in Klook and in a very startup space, because I think over this period we have evolved as creatures, and also as businesses as well. I mean, some of the most interesting and best collaboration actually took place all over Zoom, all over WhatsApp. We had an idea, and in the past, I would say that things would mature a bit slower because there's a lot of like, oh, let's measure it out, let's think a bit more. Let's do more data analysis. But these days, I think because of the current situation, we really need to adapt faster. Yeah. So I was thankful. So I think because of this opportunity, we were able to connect with more people internationally, and also like I think with the different business partner. I think a lot of people in the past, like especially the bigger brands, they might not have time to meet with me, but because of CMCO and also with the COVID situation, everyone is kind of back at home. It becomes we now have that time to then, hey, okay, no, I didn't have time to meet you in the past, but now, okay, let me give you 15 minutes or 30 minutes to hear what you have to say. Yeah. Right. So I'm very thankful for some of the business partnerships that we managed to materialize during this period as well.
It's true. It's true. There are some good things that come out of that, out of this harsh environment, right?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, since you are the regional lead, and I guess your team is a bit in Singapore, a bit in Malaysia, and perhaps in some other country in the region. How and again, tourism and attraction and the entertainment industry has been a bit tough, for this year. So how have they reacted to it? How they have lived up to it, in terms of well-being, in terms of stress, I guess, fears, that normally come to an employee that knows that the industry is not doing so well, right? So how did you manage that? How did you manage the relationship with them? Making sure that they are, man, we are good. So good.
It's still a work in progress. It's a long road, and I think I'm still learning as well. I think prior to when it first started, I think with the lockdown, everything, what I tried to do was to communicate and over communicate. I think we have team meeting, and after that, I try to schedule one-on-one 15 minutes of sessions just to ensure that their well-being is okay. They are not too fearful. I think a lot of people, I think the general fear, even till this date, for a lot of people is, will I lose my job? And what is the bread and, what if the next wave comes in and hit us, what is next? And I think I used to be in that situation. I used to be very fearful.
Potential instability, right? So
yeah, the instability.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
What's next? What's the business going to be? When is the next time that a merchant is going to shout at me because we are not producing sales? And so I kind of like break it down into a few places. So first, I think I try to empathize, and I acknowledge that I think we are all in the same boat. And I try to even get business partners, and even I think the Klook management, they have shown the ropes as well, that they have very great empathy for the situation we are in. But at the same time, I think transparency and communication is really key. And this is something that I've really learned from my from Klook's leadership as well. So we have different infrastructure like our HRBP, the business partners, as well as learning and development, trying to find and get engaging ways to ensure that the different line units across different regions are connected. We organize Zoom meetings, Zoom lunches. There's even like a monthly lunch and learn where different business units come and present actually what we do, and if people have any questions, they can ask us. Because I mean, we have ultimately grown to quite a big organization with more than like 1,000+ people. Even in Singapore office, we have about 100 people. So I can't say that actually I know what everyone is doing, but because of COVID, we now have the opportunity to say, hey, actually, yeah, it's a good time for us. Since we all locked down, we can't do anything. Can we then find some time to do some form of sharing? And I think business, my HRBPs have been especially useful, because I think tension tends to happen, especially during you are working from home. Trust is something that, yes, we will say, yeah, we trust one another, but it's easier said than done. I mean, there are times where you're like, hey, how come the things are not responsive, things are not getting done, and little things like that can be a very big thing for teams, because everyone is kind of in our own pocket of remote areas of working. So I actually had a lot of sessions with my HRBP to actually share with them, and even with my own line manager, and say that, hey, I'm actually having this issue, and do you think you can come in as a neutral party to bridge that gap? And I'm very thankful for the support that I mean, a lot of times I think I try to say, okay, I can do it on my own, but I've learned how to ask for help, and I've learned how to ask professional, I guess, like HRBPs, the talent advisors, who are really more in tune, and sometimes it's just about communicating in the right way. Sometimes especially when we are emotional, we might say things out of anger or frustration, and that might leave us in a very bad shape. So I think these things have particularly been important to me, and then especially important learning actually for me during this period, that I start to be a bit more mindful. And I think strategizing with the team is not as easy as in the past, because we're like, okay, we can all sit in a meeting room, but right now it's like a Zoom meeting, and then you're like, okay, any ideas, any questions? And then it's like silence. Yeah. And how do we find a safe space for people to actually express ideas? And it can actually be done through games, which we done like Kahoot. It's very simple stuff. It's not rocket science, but using different interesting stuff that we are seeing, and then trying to tease out the ideas, Instagram story, and get people to share actually, hey, what do you think are your ideas for this particular project? And I think when people find that it is a safe space, and I'm not judging them, and they know that this is not taken into consideration and there's no repercussion, the fear becomes a source of motivation, and it becomes a source of inspiration. And I think my main message to the team and to everyone who is actually having the fear is, what are you value adding to the job and your line business, that, you know, that this should be the main message that we should have, rather than, okay, will I keep my job or not? Because I would say that the opportunities are always there, crisis, non-crisis. It's how do we then grab hold of the opportunities and make it and bring it to life.
True. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think I found it very interesting that you guys have this different engagement, like Zoom lunches, the lunch and learn, you know, and all that. And I think it's very important to keep engaging your people, your team, but also at the same time keep learning, right? Because we have to, like you said, we are evolving, and we are evolving quite fast compared to maybe the pace that we thought to, you know, last year, right? So things are changing fast, for the bad, for the good, for the better, you know. Hopefully, you know, of course, change always, what do you say, come with pain.
Yeah.
But then, right, it's part of it. But I think it's good because we are changing for the better. I think we are improving, we are changing and finding new ways. So I found this, like, I look at this positively. So it's good that you have all these, different activities within the organization, led by your L&D team, your HR, human resource team, and so on and so forth. One question then, I am talking about learning, right? Since things are changing so fast, and your business also is evolving, what do you think will be, or what do you see as a potential skills for you, yourself, and the team, you know, for the 2021? Is there anything that you think people should be focused, your people should be focused more? Earlier, you talked a bit more about the different approach of business development and sales, because of now we're doing it online, we're doing it on Skype, on Zoom, and all other tools. And so what do you see instead for 2021 your team should focus on in terms of skills and learning?
So I think the first thing that I will still keep stressing is having digital empathy. And initially it was empathy in the real world, but I think digital empathy is something that needs to be cultivated. I think it's probably a new trend, because everything is going to take place, and I do believe that this mode of communication is going to take place for a long time to come before things start opening up. So how do we then connect with businesses? How do we ensure that our business partners, they're not falling asleep during our meetings, or if they have questions, they actually do feel that they are ready to ask? How do we then find a safe space to have negotiations and communications taking place just over a virtual space? So digital empathy is one, I think, and the other part which I have also stressed on a little is that if you see daily trends, how do you actually pivot and actually make it work in your own line of business? Because I think what we have learned in COVID is there are opportunities, but if you fail to react to the market, then we will be 5 steps late, because everything can take place overnight, and your competitors, your peers might just be 10 steps ahead of you just overnight. So I think it's about just being nimble, being able to dissect that opportunity, and then say, okay, how do I, instead of a big problem, how do I make it into a small scalable choice for us to actually execute it, test, learn it, analyze it, and then see if there is this just for a short-term goal or is it for a long-term goal. I think the last part of measuring and learning is very, very key. Many times I think a lot of us put a lot of emphasis to like try to deal with the current situation, that now, right? Okay, we are in lockdown, how do we deal with it? But there is that future that potentially once it's opening up, will this current strategy still be applicable? I think that is something that I always challenge myself included, because it's so easy to say, I react to it, let me just do it now, but without really analyzing that actually is there business potential right after COVID ends in a couple of months time, or when things start to open up in Malaysia, for example. And I think if there's anything, I also encourage my team. I know everyone is busy, everyone is reacting and trying to do with a lot of work. Always leave 5 to 10% extra capacity. And I think for myself, I need to leave the extra 20% capacity to deal with any potential crisis that comes. And this crisis can be anything, right? From merchants screaming and yelling at you to your own site, right? Oh, back end, I can't onboard. What are the potential hiccups that can happen? Because every time when we say that we put in invest 110% into every single of our tasking, when things start to happen, then we actually fail to have that capacity to deal with it, and we might eventually get drowned out. So it's about having that safe space that I know everyone is engaged and busy, but just be reactive, be nimble enough to actually ensure that we can still stay on top of situation.
Okay, so maybe if I can recap, you say a few things. One is digital empathy. So how do we build this empathy that now has to be done through a screen, right?
Yeah.
Or through maybe a message, you know, or anything, an email, right? So how do you build that digital empathy with your partner, with your clients, with your staff, with your employee, your teammate, and so on and so forth? The other one would be, how do you once you notice a daily trend or some new trends coming up, how do you make sure that you are on top of it, you know, and you can implement it, right? So that comes with being proactive, being, you know, open-minded, being, you know, on the lookout of new opportunities, and also at the same time, okay, what do I do with it? You know, how do we communicate to the right people within the organization? I believe so, right? So I can see something, but then I need to talk to different parties, either my superior or my peers or my subordinate, discuss and find a solution that could be, if, like you said, there is potential applicable, right? And the other one would be measure and learning, right? So you say, once you apply something, also learn to measure if that things that you're doing makes sense or not at that point of time, right? Otherwise, why are you doing it, right?
Yeah.
So if it's irrelevant, right, you shouldn't be doing it anymore, or you should tweak it. Is it correct what you're saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the last was put some time on the side for like potential crisis. But when you say that, are you looking at reacting to this potential crisis, or are you looking to foresee potential crisis and therefore plan for it?
Yeah. So I think the forecasting should always take place during the measure and learn, right? Like when we are executing something, we should already anticipate what are the potential loopholes. I think the spare cap is to being able to react to the situation proactively when it happens. Yeah. And the fire will always burn. I mean, there will always be something that, as much as we plan 100%, there will be issues, tech issues, right? I mean, when we set up a Zoom meeting, for example, suddenly there's no audio. Yeah. Having that 5% capacity of like, how do I ensure that I can still hold the fort and still ensure that, you know, like I can still pull this through. Yeah, and I think many times when we don't plan for that extra capacity, then we end up really drowning in that crisis itself. Yeah.
Like they say, I think in the event space, they say if things can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So like extra, bring extra light bulb, bring extra speakers and mics. Yeah.
We better plan for it.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I think we cover most of you know, our discussion was very interesting, learning new stuff from you. I don't know if you have any. This is because we are a learning company, right? So if you have any suggestion on 1 or 2 books that you have recently read and you want to share with our, you know, community, please, I don't know, go ahead.
So I'm a big fan of biography. So I think I always feel like biographies are what I call people who have taken all the wrong steps and then they have made it into successful ones. So when I read them, at least I can tease out the potential pitfalls. and focus on, or you know, like the do's and the don'ts. So I think right now I'm embarking on Elon Musk, and how so he had a book on Tesla, SpaceX, and the quest of a fantastic future. I think it's one of his older books. Yeah, but I think in it, I've learned a lot from the great guy, and to understand from his perspective, it's not all great. I mean, along the way, I also found out that he had made so many enemies, how he cut business and all. So it gives me a lot of insights to him as a character, and also to anticipate what we can expect from Elon Musk in the near future. Yeah, and the other book that I have been reading is When Breath Becomes Air. I think it helped me through a very difficult period, especially during COVID. And it actually detailed a life story of a neurosurgeon who found out that actually he was in the final stage of cancer. And he was asking, what is the purpose of life? And if you only have a few more months to live, you know, like what is the most important stuff? So it really resonated with, I felt it really resonated with me during the crisis period, to take stock of what is important. And finally, I think if there's a podcast I could recommend, it's called The Moth. It's nothing educational, but it's a series of, it's a short stories. I've always anticipated and said that one day I will write in my short story and get pitched. I think each of the story is about 1 minute to about 3 minutes long. I feel that from the moth, it gives me a lot more space and breadth to be a human being. And it's a very international, they have a lot of international stories. Of course, primarily it's in America. But I think when I hear about their stories and challenges that they have been through, it helps me put things perspective for me, that whatever I'm facing is so minute as compared to what other communities of people have encountered. And yeah, I think as a storyteller, I'm very emboldened by it. Yeah, and I hope to keep learning from the moth as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I think what we will do, we'll then ask you the right, name of the books. And I mean, we all know Elon Musk, I guess, book.
Yeah.
But the podcast and the second book that you mentioned, so we can put it down and share with our community. But if you like biography, maybe you also have read or would like to read the Nike book, Shoe Dogs. It's an old book, but fantastic. Fantastic story for me, very inspiring. So anyway, thanks Noel for sharing, for having time with us today, and for sharing this with all our community of listeners. And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk soon, and perhaps we'll do some other chat in the future.
I hope so.
I guess we go back to work now. Not that this was no work, but
yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time.
A learning window for both of us.
Yeah.
So thanks
you
so much. Great to have you on the show, and talk to you soon then.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.